Welcome to another episode of the Roundball Ramble slash NBA Aficionados podcast. I'm your host, Corbin Ford. Follow me on Twitter at CorbinNBA. This is a Sports Ethos presentation, so check out Sports Ethos on Twitter at Sports Ethos online, sportsethos.com. I had the great privilege of having on just frequent collaborator, almost a co-host on the show, Josh Earl, as we broke down the career of the Vancouver Grizzlies executive, Stu Jackson. Went into the many things that he did wrong across his tenure, and then also went and kind of put ourselves in his shoes, what we would do with the 95 expansion draft, how we would pick players in our team direction, what our coach would be, what we would do in terms of going forward. And I mean that with future draft selections, future free agents, how we would build our roster to hopefully have a different result than the one that Stu Jackson had when he was ultimately fired in the year 2000. So this is a jam-packed show, a lot of fun, a lot of content, an hour plus show. So I really hope that y'all enjoy this. We're hopefully going to have this here several times a week. Not this type of show, but a show. So definitely make sure to stay tuned for that. I'll share Twitter, Instagram, wherever you find your podcast, look for that. But until next time, y'all, thank you guys and gals for rocking with me here. Make sure to tune in and enjoy. And stay frosty, y'all. Appreciate it. All right, y'all. I am here as per usual with these ventures with my guy, the basketball junkie, the basketball analyst. You can follow him literally everywhere. I'll have all the details here in a bit. But Josh Earl, you know him, you love him. He's here for the goods. We always do these. We did these with David Kahn. We've done this for other general managers, and we're about to do one of our biggest undertakings in a minute, which is hilarious given the time we're recording. I'm not telling y'all when, but it's late. But here we are, Josh, and we're going to talk about the Vancouver Grizzlies from the year 95 to 2000 with a certain Stu Jackson. Please, first tell us how you are, then take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm 2 weeks out from becoming a first-time father, so that's awesome.
So excited for you.
Exhausting as well. The other thing that is exhausting as a basketball fan is being from the Pacific Northwest. We had the Seattle Supersonics stolen from us, and we basically had the Vancouver Grizzlies stolen from us as well. And that usually comes down to, they weren't making enough money, attendance wasn't good enough. And that's because the team was pretty bad. Over Stu Jackson's tenure, their record was 101 wins, 359 losses, which is a winning percentage of 21.9%. And
wow.
There's a reason why attendance wasn't great.
That's Russell's three-point percentage. Okay, tell us.
Yeah, the reason the attendance wasn't great is because the team was woeful. And furthermore, they didn't really have a fun, established style of play. They didn't have an exciting player like Vince Carter. Toronto had Vince Carter and a young Tracy McGrady. They had an excitement factor. They had a high-flying attack that was engaging and fun for the fans. Vancouver didn't really have that. And on top of it, they made a lot of poor decisions. Just a smattering of some of the poor decisions. They wound up trading a top one protected 2003 first round pick for a 35-year-old Otis Thorpe following a 14-68 season. So it's not like we're close to making the playoffs and we think Otis can help us. No, we're bringing in a 35-year-old Otis Thorpe while giving up a very lightly protected future first, which, hey, everybody, just throwing this out there, that was basically almost LeBron. That became essentially the Darko pick. That could have been Carmelo Anthony. That could have been Dwayne Wade. Chris Bosh.
Insane.
So that was one thing. Then there's the obvious straw that broke the proverbial camel's back, where they drafted Steve Francis, who wanted nothing to do with Vancouver, was adamant that he wanted nothing to do with Vancouver. His agent was like doing everything he can to get Vancouver to not draft him. And mind you, Steve Francis, whom I know Corbin loves, and was a multiple time All Star.
Steve
Let's not get it
franchise.
twisted. Let's not get it twisted. He was a very good player,
Yep.
co-rookie of the year that year. But he was a 6'3" guard, and they had already drafted Mike Bibby the year before. You can't play Bibby and Francis together, and Francis doesn't even want to play for your team, and still they draft him. Francis says hell to the no, and then you have to trade him to Houston for pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, as you can kind of tell, there's a little Pacific Northwest anger in my voice over all of
You're
this.
barely holding it back, man. Barely. But I admire your strength.
Thank you. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to review Stu Jackson's tenure in Vancouver from May 95 to May 2000. And then we're also going to do a redo and go over how we would have handled similar circumstances if we were the co-GMs of the expansion Vancouver Grizzlies.
I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be putting on, like you said, the proverbial time machine GM hats as we go all the way back to the year, 1995?
95, yep.
1995, a great year. Just going to leave it there. All these teams are lined up, ready to play. Well, not really. We're actually getting ready for the expansion draft. All of these teams have left their players that they want to keep unprotected. I guess we can run through the players that are going to be in the pool. I can breeze through that if you'd like.
Sure.
All right. Well, we have for Atlanta, Doug Edwards and Blair Rasmussen. I think I said that right.
Rasmussen.
There we go. Rasmussen. For Charlotte, Kenny Gaddison, a very aged Robert Parrish, age 40 at this point. David Wingate and Michael Adams. For Cleveland, John Battle. Danny Ferry, former GM. Gerald Wilkins, the lesser-known brother of Dominique, of course. We'll get to him in a second. Actually, I'm not reading this alphabetical order. So Atlanta,
okay.
I said Atlanta, Charlotte, Cleveland. Yeah, I'm just going to read you right. Denver, Reggie Williams, Dale Ellis, sharpshooter, and Reggie Slater. Both the Reggies are out of here. For Golden State, Victor Alexander, Keith Jennings, and Dwayne Morton. Now for the Celtics, the aforementioned Dominique Wilkins and A.C. Earl. Chicago, B.J. Armstrong, Corey Blount, and Ron Harper. Dallas is letting go of Terry Davis, Donald Hodge, Doug Smith, and Roy Tarpley. Detroit just letting go of the round mound, Oliver Miller. Houston is parting ways with Vernon Maxwell, Mad Max, and Zan Tabak. Indiana is letting go of Scott Haskin and Byron Scott, my guy. The Lakers letting go of Antonio Harvey and Sedale 3. Milwaukee's letting go Ed Pinckney. New Jersey, Yinka Dare and Benoit Benjamin. Orlando, Rodney Dent, Anthony Avent, Darryl Armstrong, and Guy Gert Hemming. Interesting names here. This draft. Phoenix is letting go of Trevor Ruffin, while Sacramento will be parting ways with Frank Burkowski and Lionel Simmons. Seattle's letting go of a whole mess of people. Byron Houston, D'Antonio Wingfield, Rich King, Bill Cartwright, and Sarunas Marcelionis. For the Clippers, Randy Woods, Harold Ellis, Tony Massenberg, Elmer Spencer, and Eric Riley. For Miami, the former bad boy John Sally. For Minnesota, Andres Gubert and Stacey King. New York is letting go of Doug Christie, Herb Williams, and Greg Anthony. Philadelphia is saying goodbye to B.J. Tyler. Portland is saying so long to longtime fan favorite Jerome Kersey. San Antonio is letting go of Willie Anderson, and Utah is feeling blue because they are letting go of Blue Edwards. So that is a list of. Oh, I left Washington.
Nope.
Where are they? They haven't printed. The last one.
Yep.
Kevin Duckworth, Larry Stewart, and the great Twitter legend Rex Chapman. Wow. Well, that is a list of, I would say luminaries, but really just players.
There's
I
a
mean,
couple. There's a couple interesting people in there.
it'd be interesting if it was 5 years earlier,
Well,
1990.
yes, but there's many components to team building, especially if you're starting off an expansion franchise. There are going to be elements that aren't necessarily about getting the youngest player who can potentially become, a long-term starter for you. Some of
Hmm.
the times you need to help set up the culture, set up the principles that your team is going to be built around, both on the court, in the locker room, while traveling, all that sort of stuff. So some of these players, like a Robert Parrish, a where is it? Bill Cartwright, a John Sally, some of these players who have um, kind of NBA championship experience and have a wealth of experience. Those guys might not be the typical players that you look for in an expansion draft because they're old. I
Yep,
get
there's
it.
a reason they're unprotected.
But the value of a player isn't always realized on the court. And when you're an expansion team and you're trying to kind of build something up and new, uh, you do maybe want to consider some of these veteran players who can help you set a tone.
Very true. Very true. I get what you're saying. There's value more than beyond the court. If it wasn't the case, we wouldn't have Udonis Haslam still roaming the Miami Heat benches as a player.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that. Well, without further ado, Josh, before we do this, Vancouver here, uh, we have our coach, do we not?
Yes. So Stu Jackson hired Brian Winters to be the head coach for the Vancouver Grizzlies at the
Former
time, but
Milwaukee
there
Buck.
were two other candidates that were available in that offseason that I think would be a lot more interesting. I'll start with our second choice, which was Rick Adelman. He had coached the Warriors. He wound up signing with the Warriors to be their head coach. And obviously Rick Adelman plays a fun, engaging style of offense, which could be very helpful for getting attendance and getting fans engaged in the early parts of an expansion team. But there was another coach, a personal favorite of both Corbin and mine. I've sniped Corbin on this coach before in various fantasy all-time drafts. um, but another coach who would be fantastic for an expansion team and helping set a really fun, engaging, exciting play style
Hmm.
would be Don Nelson, who wound up coaching the Knicks in 1995. This is after he had kind of the flame out with Chris Webber,
Yeah.
and which is why Adelman wound up coaching the Warriors because there was that. But we're gonna hire Don Nelson to be the coach of our Vancouver Grizzlies.
Haha, we are. The great Don Nelson's going to bring that pace and space, open style of offense. We're going to get our big men initiating offense playing out from 20 feet. There's going to be
Lots
some
of
threes flying.
passing.
Yes, fluid. Who cares about defense? Because that is optional, and I'm with it. So, yeah, I'm ready to have
I
this,
mean, I
Josh.
care a little, but
You
but
care a
yes,
little, but you're an expansion team, and you're willing to go with that
yes.
excuse for the time it takes for this exercise.
Yes. So, in lieu of actually just going through the expansion draft, we're just going to note the players that we would select as the Vancouver Grizzlies, assuming they would still be on the board at the Vancouver Grizzlies picks. Um, Primary target would, in terms of young players available in this expansion draft, would be Doug Christie, who at this point in time had spent a couple of seasons with the Lakers, was just about to start with the Knicks. And this is pre Raptors and pre Sacramento Kings.
Hmm.
But we like, especially with Don Nelson, we like that Doug Christie's got can play a little off ball, has a little bit of skills on ball, can play defense, can shoot. Like he's a Don Nelson guy, and he's kind of the key young guy in this group. So we target Doug Christie first. Some of the other players we'd be interested in, Corbin's guy, Byron Scott. Uh,
Yep, 3 point
bit,
sniper,
yep.
and a veteran
Speaking
who
of
can help in the locker room.
Exactly. Speaking of a 3-point sniper, Dale Ellis We'll make sure we have plenty of shooting for Don Nelson, even as a first-year expansion team. Then we'd also target Sarunas Marshalonis, where'd it go? Robert Parrish and John Sally for their variety of professional experiences and veteran leadership that we feel could help give our young team, our expansion franchise, like a solid foundation of professionalism, accountability, and those veteran tips that we can hopefully help our young players hit the ground running quicker. And then most of the rest would be players that have very low salary contracts, like Dwayne Morton, Zon Tabak, Andres Guibert, Trevor Ruffin, Larry Stewart. And then we'd also try to get Daryl Armstrong. This is well before he broke out in Orlando, but he did have some professional playing experience overseas at this point, and is obviously a very hard-nosed, effort-filled player who is a great type of player to have for an expansion team, even if he doesn't wind up ultimately becoming like a long-term starter or a key player for you. He's the kind of guy who really, again, helps set that tone for an expansion team.
So real quick, you kind of ran through some of these running by. I'm going to keep this roster recorded because we're going right from this to the draft. So let's get those players one more time.
Okay, Doug Christie.
Got
it. Byron Scott.
Love that.
Dale Ellis. John Sally.
Okay, veteran team.
Robert Parrish. Daryl Armstrong.
Okay.
Sarunas Marshalonis.
Okay.
And then basically everyone else would be cut.
Got it. So our base roster, or at least the foundation, almost like we had when we did the Timberwolves, would be Doug Christie, Byron, Dale Ellis, John Sally, Robert Parrish in the front court, and then Daryl Armstrong, Sarunas Marshalonis.
Yep.
Love
that would
it.
Be the key pieces.
Well, I mean, listen, we flew right through that. I love that. We were originally going to
normally we take forever,
taking forever and picking, but honestly, with this roster, I'm glad we didn't, because this will even stretch the limits of my basketball knowledge in terms of I'm going to be taking Larry Stewart. I think he was a power forward. Doesn't matter. I might be wrong.
Yes, he was a power forward.
Oh, well, there you go. So, point being, so it works out that we did it this way. I like that. Also, streamlines about 40 minutes because
yes, exactly.
If y'all want the full length expansion type deal, we've done it already. You can check our earlier episode of the expansion draft. I'll probably put the link of that in the description of this show here. Saying I listened to that for your viewing pleasure. That was well over 2.5 hours. Definitely a lot of fun.
We got in the weeds.
Oh, we totally did.
But it was fun. It was fun weeds.
It totally was. It was. We'll do I mean, listen, there'll be other expansion drafts we can do. 2005, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Charlotte, we can do that. And that's another interesting to bad GM in the future. So we'll get there. But we've gone from that. Now we get to the fun part. We have the foundation of this roster. Now we have the 95 draft.
Yeah.
We have the 6th pick. You've laid out some options here, potentially. But let's go take it from here, Josh. Set the stage.
So the 95 draft, the first 5 picks were Joe Smith, who, say what you will, had a very long career. You can't really call him a bust per se.
He know what he was like?
A very long career.
You know who he was like?
What?
Kwame Brown. Like, you make fun of them when they were selected, but both had a a decade and a half in the league.
Decade plus career, yep.
Exactly.
Antonio McDyess, Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace, and KG. So there's a lot of talent in the top 5. We have
definitely is
the 6th pick. Now, but before we actually get into what we might do with the 6th pick, I had a thought that I had kind of pitched to Corbin a little bit before we recorded, which is in this draft class, the Los Angeles Clippers had the number 2 pick, in which they took Antonio McDyess and they traded the rights to him plus Randy Woods to the Denver Nuggets for, I want to say it was, I forget if it was Roy Rogers or Rodney Rogers. So they traded them to the Denver Nuggets for Rodney Rogers and the draft rights to Brent Barry, who was the 15th pick.
Mm-hmm.
This to me, I couldn't find any background on it. This to me feels like a Donald Sterling wanting to save money in this particular instance. Woods was one of their higher paid players that was available in the expansion draft pool. And I believe that Rodney Rogers plus Brent Barry would probably make less than Antonio McDyess total. And so this struck me as very cost saving move. And so I conferred with my co-GM and thought, should we engage with the Clippers to see if they would rather drop to the 6th pick? And in the process, we will send the 6th pick and our 2nd round pick in this 95 draft, the 36th pick, plus our 2nd round pick in 96, and if need be, 97. And we'll take on, we'll select Randy Woods in the expansion draft, which saves them about $800,000.
Even if he's going.
Yep. And then we'll also, as part of the trade, take on Elmore Smith, who also was at about like $700,000. So we'd save Donald Sterling $1.5 million, and he'd only drop down 4 spots. The question is this actually realistic? Would Donald Sterling do this, or did he actually just really like Rodney Rogers and wanted Rodney Rogers and was willing to drop down from 2 to 15 in order to get that?
I feel like he would. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think Rodney Rogers was someone big. Donald Sterling, he definitely did have some different what is it called? He definitely had some different types of what is the word I'm thinking about? Different types of evaluations of players.
Yes.
That is for sure. So it's possible. At the same time, I think you're saving him money. I think my only issue would be maybe if you were to I don't know if that, so we're trying to trade for a talent. It's weird because on the one hand, we know what this is great radio. We know what KGE became, but there were questions back then about him out of high school. So I wonder if the package you have right there would be enough to get that pick. But we also know that where KG was selected, they wanted him. You know what I mean? Like that, there was no doubt in their mind where he was going to.
Well, yeah, that was.
You know, and it was great. So I don't know if. I feel like I know we were talking about it, if we should throw an extra 1st round pick or not, and you're ready to do that.
As an expansion franchise, I'm afraid of giving up any of our future firsts.
But we got
that said, what if, and this is also a tough thing for an expansion franchise. This would be hard for us to sell to the owner. But what if, on top of, again, taking on Elmore Smith's contract as part of the trade and drafting Randy Woods as part of the expansion draft and giving up the 6th pick and our seconds in this draft and in 96 and potentially 97, what if we also kick in the maximum number of dollars that we're allowed to give to another team in a single season as part of a trade package? So not only are we saving him, $1.5 million in salary, but we're also kicking him some extra cash. Do you think that would be enough to get him to sign off on this versus the Denver deal?
I agree with that. I like that framing a lot better. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if that is the case, then we would have the number 2 pick in this draft class, and we're an expansion team. We have Kooky Don Nelson as our coach.
It's about to be fun.
It's
about to be scary.
Yeah. We don't give an F about how people think if we take a high schooler. Who's gonna stop us? We're willing to do weird stuff.
We're a young
not
team
like
and a young player.
Weird stuff.
Yeah,
but,
no.
You want nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Yeah, we're straight up Michael Keaton Batman. You want to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
nuts? Let's
Let's
get
get
nuts.
nuts. So you got the
Um,
reference as soon as I said it. I'm glad.
exactly. So we would take Kevin Garnett with the second overall pick in the 95 class. And we hope that KG has a better relationship with Don Nelson than Chris Webber did.
I think he will too.
Yes.
More of a coachable player, I think, as the history would show. No disrespect to Chris Webber. Chris Webber with a certain personality, works with certain players. Kevin Garnett, a different personality, works with different players. So, or works with
Yep.
different coaches rather. So trade for number 2 pick. Select Kevin Garnett, so we don't have to worry about no Damon Stoudemire,
And,
Brent Berry, Michael Finley, Theo
yes.
Ratliff. Good. So that means the 36th pick is gone.
Yep. The 36th pick and our second round picks. We'll just say second round picks in 96 and 97 are also gone as part of this deal.
Okay, picks in 96 and 97 gone.
So heading into free agency, we have the aforementioned expansion draft players plus KG.
All right, yep. So we have a little bit of a core here, which I like.
Doug Christie. Well, we probably start Doug Christie, Byron Scott, Dale Ellis, KG,
And then Robin
and
Parrish.
probably Sally.
Oh,
I'm guessing.
yeah, I said
Probably
that before
Sally.
I realized he was 40 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah, yeah,
Sally
yeah.
makes a lot more
Sally
sense.
was also up there in age, but not nearly as old as Parrish was at the time.
No, so who? Oh, yeah, our starting 5, and that's not a bad.
For an expansion team, that's not bad. And then
No, not
we'd
at all.
also have Daryl Armstrong, Sarunas Marshallonis coming off the bench, and Parrish. Not a bad starting lineup. Also, not great. like we're
No,
still probably gonna get a high draft pick in '96. And then when it comes to free agency, I think there's another we can further bolster the shooting. Obviously, with Don Nelson, we want a lot of shooting. And one free agent that I think is very interesting is Tracy Murray. He shot 40% from three on 265 3-point attempts up to that free agency time. And he was not getting a whole lot of playing time at the moment. And eventually, in real life, he got the vet minimum from Toronto. So we could probably sign Tracy Murray for the vet minimum to be our backup to Dale Ellis.
I like
And
that backup
once
3.
Dale Ellis cooks, because honestly, in our lineup, the person who's probably going to get a lot of shots up is Dale Ellis. And we can hopefully maybe flip Dale Ellis at the trade deadline to a team for like mid or late first in 96. At least that's the hope.
I would be understanding of that as well, because I think that he could get some value. I mean, the guy was still a durable, consistent player up until I want to say he retired 98, 99?
Yeah, let me see.
Or
No,
99,
he retired
no,
in
2001.
2000.
Oh, 2000.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And he had so in 95, 96 through his final season, he collectively averaged 12.6 points, shot over 4.5 threes per game at a 40% clip. Like Dale Ellis could still play, and
Yeah,
in
so you
95, 96, he averaged 15 points per game. So
there you go.
I think on an expansion team, he would kind of have the green light in the first half of the season, and we'd gauge the interest on him, and if a team was willing to give up a 96 pick, we would obviously engage on that.
I agree. Another guy I was looking at in 95 free agency. This is okay. So where do you feel about our offense so far?
I mean, I'm not expecting it to be particularly great. I think we'll have plenty of shooting. And I like to think with Nelly, we'll play a very fast paced game. And right now, our goal is just to get KG adjusted to the NBA, maybe see what we have in Doug Christie, and kind of build that foundation, like we said, of kind of our processes, our approach, how we handle things in the locker room, how we handle things on the court, all of that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of our focus for this first season, given the talent we have available at the moment.
Okay. Because I'm thinking about what about drafting, as a Basketball Reference calls him, not drafting, picking up in free agency, the Vanilla Gorilla, Brad Lujas.
It depends on how much he would cost. I think he would be like at what age was he?
In 95, 31.
Okay. I think he had some late career injury type stuff, but yeah, I mean, he's the type of guy that I think it would be worth a flyer on. I believe he was one of the earlier guys in terms of like a spacing big who would fit very well with Anelli's system. The Heat signed him for basically vet men. I think, I'd be willing to do that. And then Sally can be our bench center. And we can also run plenty of lineups with KG as the center, perhaps surrounded by 4 shooters with Christie. Yeah, like we might as well go crazy Nelly ball and Doug Christie, Byron Scott, Dale Ellis, Tracy Murray, Kevin Garnett.
Woohoo!
Yep.
I'm excited just thinking about it. Pace and space, baby. Yeah,
yep.
But like you said, the guy was one of the earlier, shooters. Hit a combined 392. The fact that he took 1,086. Now, this was over the course of 12 years, but for that time, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And definitely was a guy who hit the long 2 as well. And yeah, he really peaked in 92, 93. The dude hit 85 threes. But in 95, 96, he shot 41% from 3. On knockdown 51 of them. So not bad at all. I like that as a fit here. Maybe we can get KG to start shooting those threes a little further out too with some other guys like that. Yeah, I'm with it. I'm just glad that was my guy I looked at that I was hopeful for.
No, I like that. I like that. So I mentioned the Dale Ellis thing. What do you think about perhaps reaching out to Charlotte? In the 94-95 season, they had a pretty good offense. They had, they were built around Larry Johnson, good old Grandmama, and Alonzo Mourning. They did have Del Curry, and to a lesser extent, like Scott Burrell, and then they also had Hersey Hawkins. They had some shooting around those guys. Do you think they might be intrigued by adding Dale Ellis for the stretch run to even further expand the space around Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning heading into the playoffs at the trade deadline?
I think it's possible, yeah.
I'd also, of course, be open to kicking them, another future second rounder in like 98 or something like that.
So getting back in return here?
That would be for their first round pick in 96.
Okay. So for Charlotte's first round pick in 96.
That would be what wound up being the 13th pick in 96, which I think everybody already knows what that pick wound up being. But
yeah. we already know. It's for inclusion for the Hall of Famer there. Yeah, I mean, Charlotte at the time, I don't think wanted the 13th pick exactly. They were trying to win now.
Yeah, that's why they wound up
they
with
made that trade with
Vlade.
Yeah. Exactly. In this case, they're getting a wing. They can probably get big some other ways. Not a problem. We're not the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I like
it. We'll operate from that perspective at the trade deadline. We flip Dale Ellis and maybe like our 1998 second round pick for the Charlotte Hornets first round pick. And we'll even say like top 10 protected because we feel like they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to be fairly successful.
Okay.
And we also think if they're going to hopefully try to retain Alonzo Mourning, because I think in that offseason, that's when he got traded to Miami because
Hmm.
him and Larry bumped heads. But if maybe the team has more success and maybe they get out of the first round of the playoffs because they have another additional like microwave scorer off the bench in Dale Ellis, that further spaces things out, makes things easier for LJ and Zoe. Hopefully that's a good deal for both.
I like it. I think that's something that makes sense. You're right. It'd be different kind of seeing where Charlotte ends up being in
Uh-huh.
their, team cycle of contention or whatever the case may be. But if it were to work out that way, that would work out favorably for them.
Yeah. And that would, in theory, give us two lotto picks in the 1996 draft. Well, two top 14
Top
picks.
14, which, as we know,
I
was
think at the
still,
time that wasn't
and it was still a
lotto,
pretty
but
deep
yeah.
draft, I'd say.
Yeah, well, yeah, the 96 draft was amazing.
Yeah, even if it was drafted with hindsight being 2020, was still good value to be found in later picks,
Oh,
especially
yes.
where
Yeah.
it's selected.
Also, so who would we look at with the third pick? In 96, the first two picks were Allen Iverson and Marcus Camby by the Sixers and the Raptors. The Grizzlies had the third pick. They took Sharif Abdul Rahim. Very good player, obviously, but there were also definite Hall of Fame players left on the board in Kobe Bryant, two-time MVP Steve Nash, one of the greatest shooters of all time, Ray Allen. Um, Not to mention four-time Defensive Player of the Year and now Hall of Famer Ben Wallace was an undrafted free agent in that draft
Hmm.
class. There's a lot of talent available. Corbin, who are you looking at with our top candidates with that third pick? Given that we have KG, we have Doug Christie, and that's basically the end of our youth. Maybe Tracy Murray factors into that somewhat. We don't really have a whole lot of youth. Who do you kind of look to put next to Kevin Garnett and maybe developing Doug Christie?
It gotta be Stephon Marbury. Okay, listen. Okay, so here's the thing. I like Christie, and I'm kind of
No,
kidding.
I don't think Christie's a point guard necessarily. I think
That's
he
what I was
functions
getting
as
at.
one in a Don Nelson system, but
Hmm.
yes,
I think he could be a different beat altogether as like a playmaking like secondary player. Like think like a ahead of his time Joe Ingles type because he had decent size, six
yeah,
six
yeah,
I think. Playmaking forward type. But I remembered watching some old Lakers games with him at the point. Not great. And then later on, he kind of found his role, in Toronto, Sacramento,
Sacramento, yeah.
as a kind of 3-and-D kind of wing kind of guy. I like him there. You get a
Mm-hmm.
guy like Stephon Marbury, you know the connection that he has with Kevin Garnett. Just saying. I'm just saying. Listen.
I don't know if that connection worked out that well, buddy.
It didn't work out that well because you're right. It didn't work out that well in Minnesota because they were fighting over who was. I guess I could fight.
You just yes, you just
Oh
like
Lord.
you killed your own argument. Like
I
I
know.
don't
I
know
just
if
can't get
no,
over
no one else
the
can see
pairing.
this. Nobody else can see Corbin's face. It was like that moment in The Simpsons where Ralph Wiggum's heart. You could like pause it and see Ralph Wiggum's heart break when Lisa says she doesn't want to be his Valentine, and like Bart
Oh,
Simpson like pauses it. That was Corbin's face when he realized like yeah, him and KG, of all people, the person we have on our team right now, broke up because of ego and each one wanting to be paid more than the other.
I yeah, yeah. It's true, and it hurts to. Fine. I mean, okay. If that's the case,
Well,
maybe.
let me throw this out there because I do think you have a very valid point of targeting like a point guard if possible.
Hmm.
We now have the 13th pick as well as the third pick. And in this draft class, there is a Vancouver native point guard, Canada's own Steve Nash,
I
who
knew
we
you were gonna go
know
there.
will be available with the 13th pick. And we know he can play in a Nelly system. And actually, when he was under Nelly in Dallas, they were one of the best offenses in the league. uh, flowing through Nash. So I agree with you. I think Steph and KG might just see a repeat of what happened in Minnesota, but
Hmm.
I like your instincts, and I'm wondering if we think Nash is available with that 13th pick, which again he's a Vancouver native, would probably be another additional boost to attendance. Not that that would be the only reason we do it. We know he would be a good fit in an LE system, and we know he's a great playmaker and shooter and everything. So um, if that is the context, how does that shift what you might look at with this third pick? And if you say Antoine Walker, man.
Ah, man, you beat me to it. No, I'm playing. I'm playing. I'm playing. I thought I would like him, but no. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's weird for me to play this with hindsight, knowing what it ends up being. But do we end up just taking
Yes.
Sharif?
So I'm
Because
inclined to think of like two players here.
okay, Ray
Um,
Allen being one. I feel like our shooting guard area is.
it's
Oh, I'm
it's
looking at. It's still. It's vets. It's Byron Scott and
yeah, it's Byron Scott and
yeah. So
Doug
maybe
Christie, who Doug
yeah.
Christie could be our third guard.
Exactly.
Um,
He's probably better there. It's a good
so
fit there.
I'm thinking Ray Allen or the other high schooler, Kobe Bryant. Now, I feel like there's going to be a similar dynamic to like the Stephon
That's what I
and
was about to
KG
say.
thing with
Yeah.
Kobe. Um, plus, I don't know if I want to automatically introduce that like it's my team, no, it's my team type thing. And for that reason, I'd probably be more inclined to lean Ray Allen, especially since UConn Ray Allen. Everyone nowadays thinks of Boston Celtics, Miami Heat Ray Allen, where he's just basically doing, the Reggie Miller, which is wonderful stuff. But UConn Ray Allen was closer to like the James Harden prototype than he was necessarily a Reggie Miller prototype. So I think Ray Allen would be who I would focus on with the third pick and hope we get Steve Nash with the 13th pick, in which case we'd have the arguably the only potential contender to Steph and Clay as the greatest shooting backcourt of all time, paired with a young KG.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think. I mean, here's the thing. You know what it is? Corbin, the basketball
Yes, I know what
analyst,
it is.
is fighting the fandom part, or not the fandom, the Corbin.
Yes, yes.
You got me though. And honestly, you can't refute good sound basketball logic. You get a good scorer at a position of need. You also get a point guard that you can build around as well. No, I'm with it. So we're talking now. The question is, we're looking at what Allen and Nash.
Yeah, so it'd be Allen at 3, and then some of the candidates available at 13 would still be Kobe, Peja, Jermaine O'Neal, Steve Nash.
Well, we still need a point guard.
Yes, and again, Vancouver native,
He's definitely going to
Canadian
be.
Steve
Yeah,
Nash.
it's going to be
There's a
doing.
lot that builds into that. Yeah.
I say we go with that. It'd be like a lesser version of what the Raptors attempt to do in 2012, 2013, when they tried to trade
The
back for Nash to get
focusing
that
on Wiggins.
that
Yeah,
Canada
yeah.
connection. Yeah, I like that. Steve Nash at 13. Yes, we know who's left on the board, but we also have a good fit for our squad here. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that our backcourt in the future for the
Also,
next decade is set.
and feel free to kill me on this, everyone, but like Ray Allen will actually pass. Kobe wouldn't.
No,
Like with the Nelson system and with trying to develop KG and stuff too, I feel like Ray Allen's going to be more conducive for that than a young coming out of high school wanting to like prove himself Kobe Bryant.
yeah, I agree. I think that you also are getting a guy who was really dynamic in his early years. You saw what he did in Milwaukee. You saw what he did in Seattle. You know, he's going to definitely bring some excitement playing in transition, knocking down threes, being able to do a little second side ball handling,
Yep.
initiation from the off guard spot in a way that is conducive playing off of Nash, in a way that Doug Christie can then play off of as well as another initiator, albeit a lesser
Mhm.
to Allen
And you
and
could
Nash.
You could have all three of those guys and KG on the court at
Yep.
the same time, and
Hmm.
any of the four of them can
And not
push
go
in
lacking too much in
transition,
defense
lead the
either.
break. Yep.
So I
Yep,
definitely think we
exactly.
absolutely
So
can.
I like that idea. And then we no longer have our second round pick, but I do think we should put out an undrafted free agent offer sheet to a Ben Wallace, somebody who, at the very least, is a hard fought, strong rebounding, good rim protector guy, a little undersized, but since he's playing next to 6'13 Kevin Garnett, it's not as big of an issue. And that would help ease some of the potential problems we'd have since Parrish is probably retired at this point. John
Yeah,
Sally's getting older. Lowhouse is also getting older. Having Ben Wallace be KG's backup would be pretty cool.
that would be cool. So I'm gonna offer sheet to undrafted free agent. I'm not gonna do it.
Big Ben.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So we have that, and then we don't have the 22nd pick, so that is no longer there. Now, this team here, I would say, is a little better than the team we had going in.
Yeah.
So when we
Yeah.
look back on, I mean, basically, I could skip the remainder of the 96 draft since we are no longer in play for that. But 97, I don't know if we are. Do you still think this roster is in play for as high as the fourth pick?
Probably. I mean,
That's what I mean, especially in the
Like
age.
KG took a couple of seasons before he was particularly impactful. Ray Allen kind of got to a Bucks team that already had Big Dog Robinson and Vin Baker and stuff. So like, I feel like we'd be still in the lotto, but I don't know if we would be at 4 necessarily.
That's what I mean.
The
So
other
it's
thing is,
tricky.
in 96, do we also look at any free agents? There were two free agents I thought were really interesting in 96, but I don't necessarily think they'd fit with what we're trying to do, which is Dikembe Mutombo, who the Nuggets, for some unknown reason, decided not to resign Dikembe Mutombo, even after they had the 8th seed beat the 1 seed. Um, and he wound up signing a 5-year, $50 million deal with the Hawks. But Dikembe, it would be enticing as hell to put Dikembe next to KG. We'd have an elite rim protection defense while having the shooting of Steve Nash and Ray Allen, and we'd still have Big Ben, a young Big Ben coming off the bench. So we'd basically guarantee 48 minutes of rim protection. But Dikembe, I think at that time was already like 30.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then,
Crazy how, yeah.
yeah,
I'm just saying how old he
uh,
was back
and
then. Hilarious to think about in retrospect.
yeah, exactly. And then Allen Houston is another interesting free agent from that time period. Another high level shooter. He shot 41% from three on over 4 attempts per game over his first 3 seasons, and he wound up signing a 5-year, $35 million deal with the Knicks. Given that we have Ray Allen and, that we probably want a little more defense on the perimeter if we have Ray Allen and Steve Nash and that sort of thing. Probably pass on Houston, but I am intrigued. Do we talk to Dikembe?
I mean, I think for a young team as we have,
Mm-hmm.
especially since Dikembe was big on minutes, I know that was a thing for him in Atlanta, I think from kind of
Yep.
Philadelphia. We have young bigs. We have a guy
Yeah.
in KG who needs more playing time, not less. You could always, I mean, we'd be going real small ball, but it is Don Nelson. I could
Yep.
even see Doug Christie playing some undersized small ball four. Like it could get really wild, really weird.
Yeah.
I
Nash,
and
Christie,
and we got
Ray,
Ben
Tracy
Wallace as
Murray.
well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if we're good and guy like Dikembe, he's only playing the five. I think
And he'd
if
be expensive. Yeah.
exactly in our best fits at the five already, If we're looking at the ultra maximized version of KG, it's at the 5. You can play the 4, but it's really at the 5.
Yeah.
And if we're looking already at Ben Wallace, it's definitely the 5. He also played some 4 in the square, but he was a 5. So I really don't see where Dikembe fits in. And like you said, what kind of cost this would be nice from a player kind of standpoint, knowing what he brought to the table. No, all of that. But no, I don't know if that's the right move.
But okay, I agree, but I just want you to think about multiple seasons of hearing the Cookie Monster walking through the halls of our team offices.
It would
and echoing in the practice facility.
I wanted the brash trash talking and shooting of one stuff on Marbury. I understand the vibes is what we're all about here, but ultimately, unfortunately, I don't know if that's the move we want to go with for the long term. But I'm with you. I get where you're coming from completely, and I think it would be nice if we didn't already have a pretty good stocked position at the 4 and 5. I think already we're stretching it, running the 5 with KG and the 4 with Ben Wallace potentially.
Yeah. Okay, so pivoting to the 2017 draft, let's say we are a little better than the team that obviously sucked and wound up with the 4th pick. Do you think we're let's say we're at like, I don't know, double up in like 8th pick, 10th pick? Like what do you think?
I think we find ourselves probably at the 10th.
Okay. Which is where Milwaukee was a year after drafting Ray Allen. They already had Big Dog Robinson. So, like, let's say we replace Milwaukee at the 10th and maybe everyone else moves up one more. So Milwaukee's now at 9 and so forth. So we have the 10th pick, no second rounder because of that trade up for KG. Who are we looking at that 10th pick? And note, 97 was a particularly shallow draft class, headlined by Tim Duncan, Chauncey Billups, Tracy McGrady,
Tim Thomas.
He wasn't Tim Thomas, Keith Van Horn. Yeah.
It gets rough fast.
Yeah. So taken at the 10th pick was Danny Fortson, who was a wonderful rebounder, but not necessarily
a little else
what we're looking for. Some interesting players available at that point. Tariq Abdul-Wahad, Austin Crozier.
I liked him.
Austin Crozier, yeah.
We still got Brad Lohaus.
Yeah, we still have Brad.
I forgot. I'm glad we didn't be able to bring the Kevin because and Lohaus could play the 4 because of his stretchability.
I mean, at this point, he's getting close to the end career-wise.
Exactly.
But yeah. Crozier could be interesting in a Nelly system, especially playing next to a KG or a Ben Wallace, Derek Anderson, another pass-happy point guard, Brevin Knight. There's some interesting people. Anthony Parker, who obviously didn't play right away in the NBA too much, but came back and had some good years in Toronto and I think Cleveland, right?
He did spend I have our player though.
Is it God Champ God?
It is not.
Okay.
This guy was
Bobby Jackson?
No.
Okay.
Getting there, getting close. No. This guy was drafted 42nd.
Don't say Chris Anstey.
I was not.
Okay.
No, this guy was drafted 42nd.
Okay.
Was waived by the team.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up not being picked up, played overseas. I'm talking about Captain Jack himself, Steven Jackson.
Could be an interesting situation pairing him with KG in the locker room.
It most certainly could.
But I think at that point in this draft class, I'm not opposed to it. That's
bring him to Don Nelson early.
Yeah, exactly.
He
could fit in that system. I think him, Bobby Jackson, and Crozier would probably be the people I'd most look at that 10th pick.
And let's not forget, KG isn't exactly Ron Artest, Meta World Peace.
This is true.
Like KG's, Steven Jackson's personality fit with the Spurs. twice.
Yeah,
Both
that's true.
times after a couple of
That's
years ran
true.
its course,
And he's
but
had success with Nelly. Like,
exactly.
I
Wayne
think
six seven.
I think that's solid
Oh,
considering
6'8".
right now we have Steve Nash, Doug Christie, Ray Allen, and Tracy Murray as like our perimeter players. So I think getting some additional depth there, and as well at his size, like I think him and Murray can play some four next to like KG at the five
Yeah.
lineups. Yep, I'm down with it,
All
man.
right. The dude played 17 years in the league.
Yeah,
Now, I was kind of stunned by that. Like, he was done by the time. Every guy that the Clippers signed in the 2014 season was done
well, I
by
mean
the time
that's
they
the
actually
Clippers.
got to the Clippers. Yeah, Hugh Turkoglu, all
Yeah,
of them. But like, even in 2014, 2013. I don't know if you remember. Um, he was one hitting those big threes.
yeah.
Against the Spurs before they ultimately, 2012, before they ultimately came and got that one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
I like
I,
it.
in '97 free agency, I have two names. One that I don't think we could get, which was Brian Grant. At the time, he was a 24-year-old.
Oh yeah.
Started off with Sacramento, strong rebounder. Would be fun next to KG, but he signed with Portland for $63 million,
You ain't
which
touching that.
no. But here's one I do like, which if Lois is getting older, Terry Mills.
I like that.
Shot 39% from three on 2 attempts per game with the Pistons. Would be a nice fit for Nelly Ball in like bench minutes.
Yeah, he was a big bomber for Detroit in that teal era, alongside late career Joe Dumars and Grant Hill, really
Lindsey
spacing the
Hunter, all
floor,
those.
Lindsey
Yep.
Hunter, yep, all those guys. So, no, I'm with you. He'd be a spiritual successor to Lojas in that
Yeah.
way.
And he
And
signed
a
a
lot more able to shoot it.
yeah,
Willing
and he
to
signed
shoot it.
a 2-year deal with Miami for just a little over 2 million, which I feel like we could probably match.
Oh, yeah, we got that.
And then we got some additional depth up front that fits with Nelly Ball.
I like it.
Now, in '98, again, '98 they had the second overall pick, and this is where Stu Jackson destroyed basketball in Vancouver. They already had attendance problems because the team was woeful, and they didn't, like I said, have like a set style that was engaging and that sort of thing. Big Country Reeves and Sharif Abdul Rahim and ultimately Mike Bibby were all good players, but they weren't exactly the type of players where like a fan base is just like obsessed with these guys and like,
Yeah.
So we probably have a better finish with the lineup that we have now than they did. So we probably don't get the second overall pick, which wound up being Mike Bibby, which still wasn't like Bibby had a long career, but at least
It
he
wasn't
wasn't
the
Michael
best value.
Olowokandi. Yeah.
Oh, that is true. That is true. Could have been
But
worse, Josh.
yeah. So where do you think we kind of slot in this draft class? Because I
feel
still
like
imagine we probably don't make the playoffs within our first 2 years. I imagine we're probably still our first 3 years. We're probably still building to that. I'd imagine. So where do you kind of see us slotted in this draft class?
I would say if we're getting better, but not quite there, end of the lottery.
Okay. So let's say 13 or 14.
Yeah, I like that. Either. I think
Uh,
with that right now at this point, we still have some of these guys. 97. Let's say Byron Scott retired 97 after that
yep.
97 season. Um, so he'd be gone for
Sally and
sure.
Parrish are probably
Sally and
already
Parrish are
gone.
probably both gone.
Marshallonis, yeah.
Yeah, Marshallonis retired in 97, or at least was done with the NBA in 97. Dale Ellis is now definitely,
Yeah,
starting to
we
decline.
traded him. Yep.
Oh, he's gone. My bad. Yep. Doug Christie's good. Armstrong's still all right. Kevin Garnett should be getting better. Same with Ben Wallace.
Hmm.
Lowhouse, I mean, he played for a few more years, but he's definitely in that kind of decline stage. Louis
Yeah.
Miss guy, you're not someone you're really relying on like rotation member like that.
Yep.
So I mean, but then again, Ray Allen, Steve Nash, their guys are
I'll,
coming more into their own. This will be their second
yep.
season now. Yeah, I think end of the lottery makes sense. I can go for both those guys stepped up maybe the next year, so I could probably go for 13.
Okay. So this draft class was interesting because it had Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, and Paul Pierce, three likely Hall of Famers. Also had some other really fun players in this class, like White Chocolate, Jason Williams. Um, Also, one of my favorite players who always gets overlooked because he had injury problems. But Rafe LaFrentz, who was basically the 3 point
You loved him.
shooting, shot blocking center that we all love and crave right now. But he did that in, 98 and the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of available at that 13th pick. The actual pick was Keon Clark. Michael Dickerson, who obviously wound up becoming a Vancouver Grizzly the following year, thanks to the Steve Francis trade. Um, then your guy Ricky Davis,
Mm-hmm.
Al Harrington, uh, you got Richard Lewis. Um,
Like Rashard Lewis.
yeah. True fact, Pat Garrity went to the same high school my wife went to.
Wow, I love
So
Pat
I'll,
Garrity
I'll I'll
too.
mention him. I'll mention
This,
him. I don't think we'd consider him that strongly,
I
but
mean, listen, I don't know if we get him that early, but I like Pat Garrity. Like
yeah.
this draft would have been like between LaFrance,
Mm-hmm. Brad
Garrity,
Miller was
Miller,
undrafted
yeah,
free agent. Yep.
Lewis. Like this is the draft for what would become really um, just high volume stretch fours.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think, given what we're trying to accomplish, and given that we have KG and Big Ben at this point, I think we probably make sure that Rashard Lewis doesn't slide to the second round.
I'm with you on that too. We take him. He can play the four, he can play the three. And right
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
we
So then
don't
we
really
got
have. Yeah,
look at that shooting: Steve
yeah,
Nash, Ray
yeah.
Allen, maybe like a Tracy Murray, Rashard Lewis, KG.
And we got some major size, stretch the
Yep.
floor, juice on ball. Yes, I like this a ton.
Okay. And no second rounders, but do we engage Brad Miller, knowing that we have Ben Wallace, knowing that we have KG, but knowing that Brad Miller can also play in a two big lineup with guys like KG and Big Ben.
We can. I like it. I think
Okay.
he's someone again who is going to be, solid center. Had definitely had his years of starting center, but really for the most part, always played well in the ancillary role.
Yep. And
So,
played fantastically in the Adelman system in Sacramento.
yep,
So I think he would fit well with a Nelly system. He might not be the fast breaking center that you necessarily want, but in the half court sets, I think he'd fit perfectly for what Nelly would want to do.
I agree. So at this point, undrafted free agent Brad Miller.
Yep. So now we got Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis, Kevin Garnett, Ben Wallace, Doug Christie, Daryl Armstrong, um, Tracy Murray, Terry Mills,
Mm-hmm.
and Brad Miller as kind
Yep,
of
and
our
Lou.
top
Yeah,
10. And
exactly.
Steven Jackson, yeah.
Murray, Jackson, Brad Miller, and Lou House still at the very, he's still around,
Yep.
but not yet. I like this a lot. I really think we have foundation. I think this is the year we make the leap for sure. Yeah, 'cause that's a solid grouping of players. Um, just in general. Okay, great. So we have all that. Have no second round picks, so that doesn't matter. So now we head down to the 99 draft where I think it's funny to kind of. I think we're better now. I think we're deeper.
I do think we're better now. I
Yeah,
think we might even be in the eighth or seventh seed
yeah.
if things go our way.
We got the
The
depth.
the
Players
the
coming to their own.
yep. The tricky part is I really like this 99 draft class. Like, I
I
actually
know.
think this is one of the draft classes that is least kind of talked about as one of the greatest draft classes. And also, again, this is the draft class that sunk basketball in Vancouver and ultimately was the reason they wound up getting sold to Michael Heisley, who moved them to Memphis because the whole Steve Francis snafu really sucked away all the hype that came from a top pick.
Mm,
It made the fans not like uh, a lot of the players. Made players and agents kind of be like, "Oh, we could do that." Yeah, like I don't know anything about Canada. I don't want to play in Canada.
yeah,
It just really left a really bad, sour, bitter note with everything about Vancouver, and ultimately, I think was the reason why they wound up leaving Vancouver. So my hope is obviously we're not drafting Steve Francis Corbin. We won't
I
be in
know.
position to do so. Um, Although there are two or three there are three players in this class that I would strongly consider potentially doing a consolidation trade to move up for.
Mm,
Um, that's assuming we'd be willing to like people like Doug Christie, Steven Jackson, and Tracy Murray had played well enough, and if we're feeling confident enough in ourselves, maybe throwing in some future draft picks, because there are three players that I think would fit so well in Nelly Ball, especially paired with KG and Ben Wallace up front, and with Rashard Lewis at the 3 or 4. And those players are Lamar Odom, Sean Marion, and Andre Kirilenko.
I like all those guys. I do. We already know our mutual love for Lamar Odom as a prospect in the Nelly system as well documented, and I
He's
would love to get
the
him.
most Nelly Ball prospect I can even think of.
I agree. I guess my thing is I just don't know if that proposed package will be enough.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like we lose
Um,
one of Nash or Allen.
yes, which I don't want to do. The nice thing is, I believe we'd still be able to take Kirilenko. I think he was taken with the 24th pick. We'd probably still be in play to also go with Ron Artest if we really want to combine KG with Ron Artest and Steven
Except I
Jackson.
was about to say,
Like, I don't know if we want to do that.
it was funny. We were like, well, at least KG's not running our test. Let's get running our test.
Yeah.
But defensively,
Um,
yikes.
yes, yeah, exactly. But so let's say we're pick 15 or 16.
I like that.
Let's say
That
we
makes a lot
made
more
the eighth
sense.
seed in the West. Probably didn't advance, obviously, but we tasted the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, got some home fan interest in playoff basketball. Hopefully, continue to boost our attendance so that we
Mm-hmm.
can avoid being shifted out of Vancouver. Excuse me. That's radio for you, folks.
There you
Just a nice
are.
belch for you. But yeah, so at the 15th pick or the 16th pick, Ron Artest was available. Andre Kirilenko went with the 24th pick. One of my favorite players of all time went with the 57th pick, Manu Ginobili,
Ginobili.
which we do have a second round pick in this draft. Um, some other interesting players, including undrafted players. Jorge Garbajosa, who played for Toronto for a couple of years, was a really
Mm.
fun forward. Raja Bell was an undrafted free agent. Um, Also had guys like Devin George, James Posey, etc.
Good
Um,
vets, long careers.
honestly, at the 16th pick, normally I would consider Ron Artest. Considering we have KG and Steven Jackson, I don't know if we need another force multiplier in the locker room of that level of intensity. So I probably don't put Artest high on our board at that point. I'm probably targeting Andre Kirilenko with our pick, which can you imagine pairing Kirilenko with KG and Ben Wallace all in a Nelly ball system?
That would just be nasty. That would just be nasty.
Yeah, so I think, unless you disagree, I think Andre Kirilenko is our pick at 16.
Okay.
And then with the second round pick, I got to go with my guy, Ginobili.
I love it. I love it. All right, let me put. So second with which pick are we drafting?
16th pick.
16th pick in the draft.
Andre Kirilenko, who's taking the
Andre
24th pick in real life.
Kirilenko. That's just our exceptional scouting.
Yep.
And then
we would definitely be deep into international scouting, which is why we would be aware of Manu Ginobili.
Yep, because again, that's how we do. So
and Manu would work so well in Nelly ball. Even the Manu at that point in time would be really. I think Nelly would love Manu, and Manu would be a nice third, fourth guard for us at first. Alongside Nash or Ray. Or even, Steven Jackson or Doug Christie. Like Manu could fit with any of those guys. Manu could be the point guard at the moment, could be the two guard at the moment, and would just really work well with what we're building.
Got you. Oh, yeah, I agree. I like this. I'm writing it down right now. I don't know why I was spelling Ginobili Kirilenko. Because that shows you how, again, Great Radio, we are going deep in the process here.
Yep. And then that would basically take us through the 99-2000 season. And I like to think we wouldn't get fired like.
Oh, dude,
Steve
we
Jackson
are going
would.
long and strong right now. I mean, if we're looking at this, wow, we wrote a book. Look at us. This is
let's lay this out. From 95 to the 99 the start of the 99-2000 season, we have Steve Nash, Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis, Andre Kirilenko, Kevin Garnett as our starting five.
Yep.
Off the bench, we have Manu Ginobili, Doug Christie, Steven Jackson, Rashard Lewis, and Ben Wallace, with Brad Miller and Tracy Murray and Daryl Armstrong as our deep rotation players.
Wild. I mean, the way we did this really is a masterclass. And
I think Corbin and I both want to mock this team up in like basketball GM or
dude, I really want to go. We got to find the perfect like sim or something to like compete with each other.
Oh,
I mean, technically we could do it through basketball GM because it's God mode, and you just simulate like we make our own rosters and then go against each other in like a sim. It could happen, but like I would love this is why we make a great team, because the team I would normally pick,
we balance each other out.
Yes, the team I would normally pick would be a different team, yes, than what we have here. However, no, it would not be. The team I picked would be a different team in terms of how it would go, but it wouldn't be necessarily the best team. And you pick a different team that might be the best team, but it'd be a different team. But right now, the perfect marriage of like you said, like you got some players I like, got some players you like together. It's like PB and J. You just have a jelly sandwich, you're missing the peanut butter. Just a peanut butter sandwich, but you get both. There we are. Dude, I like this. This was a good. I mean, the fact that we kept this under 2 hours, maybe even
which is insane for us. Yeah.
This is not how we normally go, as y'all know. But like, listeners, this was another fun exercise in this. We did this last time, and I don't want to. Josh, I'm gonna give you the last word for sure. But in keeping with tradition, we always announce the next GM that we do. Do you have any ideas for the next one?
So, if we want to focus on expansion stuff, we could look at the Charlotte Bobcats when they came in. Um, we could also, if we really just want to go after GMs that we think really maybe messed up, we could go after MJ's period of being GM for the Washington Wizards.
Oh,
Um, Either both franchises are tied to MJ in a way. Are there any GM tenures that you're particularly interested in revisiting?
you
We
know
could
what?
also do a good GM, by the way.
We could. We could, and just see how we would continue or agree with. I am fond of Scott Layden. Fire Layden. I also feel like what is his name? One second. Just because it was such a fun, interesting team, and I don't understand. Was a fun, interesting team, but it was a volatile blend, and their GM really did not care about how they were put together in terms of um, what is the word? In terms of talent, like he was like, "Hey, personalities don't matter. Talent rules all." Bob
Are you
Whitsitt.
going where I think you're going?
Bob Whitsitt.
Yeah, like Trader Bob. Yeah,
Yes, I am Trader
which
Bob.
is
That's what I'm thinking.
that's hilarious because one of my friends and mentors actually was part of that front office, so I know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, yeah.
That is one I would. That's one I would like. I wrote an article. I started writing an article on that. I read a great book by that. Um,
The Jailblazers era. I grew up in Oregon.
Dude,
I'm
there you
intimately
go.
familiar with the Jailblazers
There
era,
you
and
go. That would be one I would love.
I like that
You had some
idea.
interesting mix. You had
It's
older
like
players,
Scottie Pippen,
Bella Shrimp,
like not
Vetus,
your Vetus, not my Vetus, our Vetus
Arvidas.
Sabonis. Got Sheed, got Dale Davis, got Brian Grant, Bonzi Wells, Damon Stoudemire. There's a lot of interesting stuff that we could. I like that. I think we should do the Jailblazer era, and
Jailblazer, Bob Whitsitt.
perhaps, maybe we have less jail stuff. Just throwing it out there.
It's a possibility.
Just
I, I mean, between me and Josh, I doubt either one of us is going to fight super hard for Ruben Patterson on this team. We can find other
I
defenders.
mean, I would
It's
fight
okay.
him, but I don't know how. Like,
Fight
I would
for
fight
him.
hard for him. No.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll be a lot of fun. There it is. Announced next up. Bob Whitsitt, Trader Bob. We are going for the Jailblazers. We're going to make it right. I'm excited. But real quick, Josh, first off, thank you for your time. An hour and 15 is still an hour and 15, especially starting
That's
late
impressive for
in
us.
my
Yeah.
schedule. I appreciate you, sir. Let us know where we can find you. Obviously, you'll be very busy very, very soon. So might not be a
Yeah.
whole lot of work coming out, but just in general.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at 2redjearl. You can also find me on Twitter under at your hoops career. I am what I call a basketball career development coach. I help people who want to work in basketball, whether that's in coaching, scouting, analytics, media content, etc. I help them develop processes and approaches that help them get better results, get more opportunities, and have greater control over building their dream careers in basketball. So if you're ever interested in finding out a little bit more about what I do at Your Hoops Career, or you want to have a free 30-minute career consultation call with me, baby pending. I don't know quite how my brain
How
is
it's
going to
going to
work
work
once
out.
I'm sleep deprived from a baby, but you can go to yourhoopscareer.com and there's a thing you can do to sign up for a free 30-minute career consultation call with me, if that's your thing.
All I can say is that I've had a conversation. I mean, I'm fortunate to be Josh's friend. You all can be his friend,
Yes.
but I'm already his friend. Like one of the
Corbin
best
called
guys out
shotgun.
there. There you go. Exactly. One of the best guys out there. Will really help you get where you need to go. Give you advice, things to think about that you've never considered before. and ways to advance wherever you're trying to get into. Like, I'm in this weird space, as y'all know, but like, just talking with him and not only having conversations into this, but just in general. Okay, what are your goals? What are your plans? And, I'm looking forward to going more into this program in the future and learning more myself. So definitely take advantage of the opportunity. This isn't me, carrying water for anyone. It's a great friend who I also know is someone who's been doing this a long time before we even knew each other. Like, friends like this has been doing this. So definitely make sure to check him out for sure there. Compared to that, I really have nothing to add. You can find me on Twitter at Corbin NBA. I won't help you with that stuff. I'm just as lost as you are. We're all in this together.
You are too unkind to yourself.
I appreciate you saying that, bro. I thank you for that. But I'm just a person here, and that's fine. I love hoops and I love having these conversations with the great people like Josh, and so happy to be a part of this. But definitely, if you want to, check me on Twitter at Corbin NBA. Random Lakers happenings, a whole lot of different podcasts I am doing. Hopefully, trying to get in some writing soon. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, you'll find all my work there. Aside from that, Josh, any last words before we take you out here?
Yes, revenge of the Pacific Northwest.
Revenge.
Bring back the Sonics. Hopefully, we can also get some sort of justice for the Vancouver Grizzlies. I think that's less likely, but shout out to the Pacific Northwest. Our next one's going to be on Portland. Lots of love for the Pacific Northwest, and we hardly knew ye, Vancouver Grizzlies. But maybe if Corbin and I were in charge, you'd still be there.
That's all we got to say about that. Listen, great words from our guy, Josh. I have nothing more to add except, yep, you wish you had us. For Josh, for myself, we are Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and we'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye.